Welcome to this edition of the Fireside Chat. As you notice, I'm wearing the PPE that we are encouraged to wear, the personal protection equipment, the mask that has been given to me, as well as the gloves that were given to me. The only thing I don't have, which I don't need, of course, is the gown. Now, thank you for being with us. Welcome, St. Paul's family. Welcome those who are connected to St. Paul's, and welcome to those who are beyond St. Paul's, who are with us today. And I hope that you will maybe pause this for a moment, get yourself a coffee or a tea or a beverage of your choice. You'll notice that I've chosen A&W root beer today. Not because we're going to be doing any cheers to this Sunday as we did last Sunday, but I hope that you will be comfortable and join me just as if you were in a chair beside me and we would have a chat about an important topic. I want to say to you today, and it's very important for me to get this across to you. In 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 13, we read, "And now abides faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love." It is my strong conviction, just focusing on the first part of that verse, "And now abides faith, hope, and love." And there's a reason that those three abide. It's because faith, hope, and love are essential to thriving human life. We all need faith, hope, and love. And no matter what your particular worldview is, I'm a Christian theist, but whatever your worldview is, whether you're a naturalist or an atheistic existentialist, of course I'm speaking beyond the family of St. Paul's, every worldview needs to provide faith, hope, and love to human life, because without it, we cannot thrive. I want to speak to these values, to these qualities, in the context of approaches that have been taken to COVID-19. I'm always curious when I hear one of our health professionals say that we're following the science. We're doing this because we're following the science. And I'm curious about that because I always wonder what science they're following. But I want to use Britain today as an example, and Boris Johnson and some of the decisions that he made, just to illustrate that the science is one thing. The science is the data that we are able to communicate. And for the COVID-19 virus, we have 4 months of data that we've been able to track. The data is one thing, but our approach, our models in applying it can be very different. And I want to use Britain as an example. When the virus first hit Britain, there was a commitment to follow a model of dealing with the data. And that model is described, that I will describe, and has been used by others to describe herd immunity. Now, herd immunity means that you allow this virus to spread through the population. And that was the plan that was chosen by Boris Johnson and the health leaders initially in Britain. And here's the thing, that the best scenario is for a group of people or a country to develop herd immunity. Now, if 70-80% of that country is able to develop herd immunity, it means that those who are more vulnerable in terms of life would not be infected by those who have immunity. Now, part of this strategy would also be to put a firewall of protection around the seniors, around the seniors' care homes, for example, to ensure that those who are most vulnerable would be protected through this virus. As the virus actually penetrated, washed through the people of Britain. And there was some good science upon which to choose that. And that is going back to North Korea, which had, or South Korea, excuse me, which had a strong infection of their population, that 90% of the people had mild symptoms. So if 90% of the people would have mild symptoms and they could develop herd immunity quickly, in the long run, it probably would be the best model to choose. However, what was happening is that the hospitals were being just crashing, burning in terms of all of the people who were having to go for critical care and hospitalization. And during that period of time, it became very obvious that the medical staff of that country, the health professionals, as well as the hospital beds available, could not handle this particular model of dealing with the science. And so Boris Johnson, who, as you know, if you've been following the news, nearly lost his life. In fact, for 48 hours, as he shared, it was touch and go because his journey to herd immunity as he became COVID-19 positive almost took his life, and he was hospitalized and in critical care for a period of time. So there was a shift. There was a shift from herd immunity to the strategy of suppression. And that brings us to Canada. Right from the very beginning, there was a choice that was made that we would take the scientific data and we would follow the strategy of suppression. And we've been following that all along the way. The strategy of suppression is not to gain herd immunity immediately, but rather to suppress the impact of the virus in order to allow time for a remedy, a vaccine to be developed. But even more important than that, initially, it is to help our healthcare professionals who are putting their lives on the line, to give them time. And also, as we suppress this virus, to allow the possibility with time to find that remedy, to find that vaccine. On March the 20th, the President of the United States, President Trump, asked this question to the head of the medical team in the United States, Dr. Fauci. He said, what if we were just to allow this virus to wash through the United States? And Dr. Fauci said, in shock, so many people would be killed. And of course, though they were late in the game, they decided to choose the track of submission. Now, let's go back to faith, hope, and love. The three IPPE qualities that are so essential for human life in order that we might thrive. I believe that the model of suppression is the model that allows those three qualities and serves us the very best. Faith, hope, and love. We all need these qualities. And the reason the scripture says that they abide is that they need to abide. They need to abide because these are the qualities that we need to thrive. Now, even though suppression does not deal with the virus in terms of its long-term impact. And even though herd immunity might be, in the long run, the best track to follow or the best model to follow, I believe that suppression, the choice that we have made here in Canada, and which was ultimately made in Britain and the United States, is the model that affirms faith, hope, and love. I want to share with you in the second part of this Sunday, in part 2 of this Fireside Chat, I want to share with you a little bit about the bubonic plague, the most disastrous plague in history, far beyond even the Spanish flu or, of course, COVID-19. And then I want to present to you the spirituality that was inspired during that period, in fact, following the period of the bubonic plague, the spirituality that is so relevant for our day. So please join me in part 2 as I talk about that spirituality from then, but so relevant for today. Thank you.